Hello comrades, yes it's me, a Yorkshireman, now living in Wales. And yes, I'm back. Been a while I think, 3 or 4 days, not 100% sure. And I can't decide whether or not to carry on making these videos because all my views are getting lower and lower and lower. Now, could be because I'm amazingly boring, which is of course a distinct possibility. Or it also could be that no one really cares about anything at all and they're quite happy that Wales ends up just like England and gets worse and worse and worse. I don't know, maybe that's the reality of it, that people are not interested. They like looking but they won't do anything. Or could it be that the Gwynedd Council and indeed the Welsh Government are getting a bit sick of me pointing out all their faults? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to have a think about it. Whilst I think, let me tell you about my latest video. And this one is Gwynedd Council and their Green Fleet plan. Now, if you go on to Gwynedd Council and do a search for the Green Fleet plan, then that document should come up because it should be on their website somewhere because I have found it. But it's 12 pages long, so I can't really show you it all, so I've done the highlighted bits. Interestingly, 12 pages long with no author. There's also no references in it. So it's all about green stuff and green vehicles and transforming the Gwynedd Council into electric vehicles, but we don't know who said that. And now, I found that really odd, given the fact they're using my money, taxpayers' money, and they're using your money to do it. So let me start taking you through the bits of the document which I found quite interesting. So as you can see here, it comes up, Green Fleet Plan 2023 to 2029. And as I've said, there's no author, but it also has a vision. So it's got a vision, but I don't know who give that vision to Gwynedd Council because there's no name. Also it goes on about future generations, 2.1 blue arrow. Interestingly, it says a well-being. Now, the current generation, because of all this ecology stuff and climate change emergency and crisis, we're all getting poor. So the future generations, because of this, will basically be skint. They will not be able to do anything because they will be skint. So even everybody like me and everybody else, you think, oh, I can manage now. No, all the fuel prices and therefore all the other costs we have go up and up and up because someone somewhere decided to chase net zero and climate change emergency stuff. Well, I haven't, never signed up for that, never will do, thanks. And I will already say that the narrative and the ideology is literally falling apart in front of our eyes. Now then, we then go down to number 3, local context, second blue arrow, and it says climate change emergency. Now, it also goes on to say that Gwynedd Council will be net zero carbon and ecologically positive by 2030. I don't know what that means. Ecologically, yeah, positive, don't know what that means. All I know is that I'm a carbon life form, and if I'm net zero, i.e. nothing there, that means I don't exist anymore in the same way the council won't exist. So I can't say I really support that as a plan. However, that's what somebody else has said, not me. So my question there is, so when it fails, not if, when it fails, will they all resign and pay back all the money they've wasted on it? I don't know. Anyway, moving on. At this point, it goes through and it sort of says in this document there's no renewal plan for the vehicles. Now, remember I worked for the post office and also I was a driver. So you look at it, you get, oh, there's your driver, there's your vehicle for the day, and it'd be either something shiny new or something which was 20 years old. And you'd be like, oh God, I've got that again. Now, I do remember then sort of picking it up and saying, well, why does this happen? And the answer's quite simple, and common sense applies. So as you can see here, it says currently it is the fleet manager named on the licence as a person responsible right across the council. This will be for all the vehicles, you see, and supported by 3 members of staff. So what would happen, because I do know this, is the fleet manager would say, right then, Bob, Dave and Carol, what's that van like? Oh well, to be honest, it's only 5 years old, but it's a bit of a wreck because it seems to be a bad one. Right, get rid of that. They'd then say, what's that like? And they'd say, well, that's 20 years old, but to be honest, it works and it goes fine, don't cost us out. Right, that's what we're going to do. Get rid of that, keep that. That's a renewal policy. And that will have been written into the fleet manager's, guess what, job description. But it also sort of doesn't say that here. It's like, oh, we don't know what happens. Well, we know that something must happen. Also, don't forget, I've had a quick of a chat with some of the Gwynedd people as I drive about, and I'd say, what's going on then? And they've told me certain stuff, so I know more than what everybody thinks. At this point, we then go on to the other one, and this is what I would call very, very underhand, and this is my own interpretation of it. First blue arrow, and it says managers need to be challenged for having these vehicles. At this point, we then go down to the bottom blue arrow, and we've got the word again. However, there is a need to challenge the relevant managers. Now, as I say, me being about a bit, I know how this works. Let's challenge them. Well, what does that really mean? Well, let's say to them, but if you don't do as we say, we're going to look at redeployment, redundancy, job evaluation, and maybe part-time, or anything like that. Now, when you're faced with that, and you've got to look after a family, you've got to find money, you've got to find food, and you need a job round here, chances are you're going to cave in unless you've got a lot of money. Or you just go with the flow because you're thinking, well, I can't fight it, and I've got all these commitments I need to meet, i.e. feed the family. So I won't blame anybody for doing it, but if you know better than me, please tell me. But that is my intuition in what happened here, because guess what? I've seen it done already in various other public sectors. This is what they do. So at that point, we then look at this. And it goes on to say, 5.32, go down to the blue arrow, highlighted section, no procedure exists in the council regarding the impact that unsafe and unnecessary loads have on a vehicle's performance. Now, unsafe. So what they're saying here is that they've seen many occasions evidence that the council workers and the council drivers have just thrown things on the back and just drove off willy-nilly. Now, I won't say that'll never happen, but trust me, you're not going to go in a council vehicle with Gwynedd Council all over it, sitting in the post office, and like just throw stuff on the back and go around like an idiot. It don't work like that. In addition to that, vehicles have a weight loading limit. So you're never going to exceed that, because what's the point? You don't want to lose your job or your licence. Don't agree with that. Now, also goes on about a vehicle's performance. Now, you put a lot of stuff on an EV vehicle and that battery disappears really fast. In addition to that, they've not mentioned the weather when it comes to EV vehicles, because if it's colder weather, the battery goes down even faster. On a IC vehicle, petrol diesel vehicle, that don't happen. Yeah, carry more load, you use more petrol or fuel, that's as simple as that. But the weather don't really make any difference, you see. So again, this is very misleading, and I think being unkind to people who work at Gwynedd Council might drive, because they use common sense, they don't want sacking. And then we go to this bit here, and I've covered this, but it says renew. Here is the direction they wish to take to renew the fleet. Who? I don't get it. Who wishes to take the direction? Because this has got no names on it. And I have made a Freedom of Information request trying to find out who are, and that'll be my next video. As I've said, the fleet manager will use common sense, bearing in mind it's taxpayers' money. That's how it works. But some other person's come along with an ideology and said, oh, this ain't good enough, you need to do this. Now, the other thing to sort of understand is, I think if I remember, they've decided that they're going to have this renewal schedule. So as you can see here, now it says that has low emissions from 2025 onwards, with the rest of the fleet following in 2030. Now that's based on an ideology, not value for money for taxpayers or common sense. And again, all this goes against their own green policy, which says, I love this, I've covered this before, oh, we should repair stuff, we should recycle stuff, and we should reuse stuff. Oh, wait on, these lot want to do it every 5 years. Oh, well, take that completely good car and we're going to swap it over 5 years. Well, no, why don't you reuse it? Why don't you just keep using it until it dies a death? That's the only way you're going to get value for money. And this bit, going down to the bottom blue arrow, don't make any sense. So according to this, the costs, buying all the electric vehicles, 2022-2023, they said it was £1.5 million. Now, if I remember, it's well above that now. And that's from a government grant, so that's still public money. And this I don't get. So I look at all the figures going down and they're all over the shop. Don't make any sense to me at all. Because then we get to the bottom one, 2028 to 2029, and according to that it's minus £12,712.12. How, God's sake, can you get accurate? In addition to that, does that mean we're getting cash back? So if I go on to 2020, 30, 2031, it'll be 24 grand back. So we get everything for free. Huh? Please explain it to me. It makes no sense. Maybe I'm just numb. And then we go through this full page about funding method. There is nothing in here about value for money for the taxpayers. So you work that one out for yourselves. I don't get it. And then the only savings are shown here is carbon savings. Well, last time I looked here, I can't weigh them in, right, even though they've got a weight on it, because you can't weigh them because it's like light, so I don't know how to work that out. I can't touch it and I can't see it. But if this was all true, if you've got solar panels like me, I'd get reduced council tax because I've got carbon savings. Again, it's just made up stuff. And then we come to this last bit here, which is hilarious. So what they're saying on this bit, vehicle charging costs, they're saying each year to charge these cars it'll only cost £272 a year. Well, that's wrong. And the quote is each charge is £6.80. Go to the top, it says it will cost at home between £19 and £26 per charge. That is not £6.80. Now if they know something, now even if it's double that £6.80, it's still not what they're saying, so the maths don't add up. And then of course, and this is just from the internet, go down to the bottom one, and this is from the Witch magazine, and it says something like, based on our lab tests. So that's not real life, that's not in the cold, fully loaded up and the rest of it, that's just average. We go down to the bottom arrow, and it says that basically, if you were to pay 47p per kilowatt, that would mean you're paying 16p per mile, which is slightly more expensive than the equivalent size petrol or diesel SUV. So it doesn't make any sense. I don't know what to say, comrade. I don't know. Please leave a comment whether or not you think I'm off my head or something like that. Tick and subscribe and the rest of it, and thank you for watching. The next video will be me trying to find out who they are, because I don't know. Right, yes, I don't know what to say. Right, comrades, have a good day. Catch you on the other side. Thank you.